We're all used to congestion on the Ethereum network and spikes in gas fees when the network is busy. And we've seen this over the last week or so as meme coins have been on a run. But what about what happens on Bitcoin? What does it mean? What's causing it? And what can solve the problems? We're going to look at all of this in this video today. Over the weekend, Binance had to halt the withdrawals of Bitcoin on the network. And this happened twice over the weekend. So the first time what happened was that Binance ran out of Bitcoin on its hot wallet. And at some point, it wasn't able to reconcile its hot wallet between the cold wallet. Now, what happened was that all the transactions were getting stuck in the meme pool. And this led to a delay and a need for them to stop withdrawals. So they fixed this problem, and then it happened a second time. And a second time it happened because user withdrawals were also getting stuck in the meme pool because the fees weren't being paid high enough for the transactions to actually get through. So what caused this? Well, BRC20 tokens and ordinals caused a huge amount of traffic on the Bitcoin network over the weekend. Now, if you're not yet familiar with the BRC20 tokens, do take a look at this video I made previously that covers BRC20 tokens, ordinals, and stamps. So all of these have been blasting onto the Bitcoin network, and they've been using up all of the space in the blocks, and they've also been filling up the meme pool. So what is the meme pool? Well, the meme pool is basically the memory pool, and it's worth understanding how this actually works. When a user submits a transaction to the Bitcoin network, the nodes verify this transaction. And when a node verifies this transaction, it's passed into the meme pool. And it sits in the meme pool then until a validator picks it up, verifies it, and confirms it in a block. However, when there is a lot of transactions happening, these meme pools can get quite full. Miners then pick the transactions that have the highest fees, and they prioritize the transactions that have the highest fees and put these through first. Now, this can cause congestion on the blockchain, and it can also cause higher fees, just as we see on the Ethereum network. These ordinals and Bitcoins are good for Bitcoin or not good for Bitcoin. In one sense, they're really, really good because it shows another utility of the network. But in another case, it means that other people that are trying to make small transactions on the Bitcoin network aren't able to do so because the fees are just too high and the transactions are getting stuck. Let's have a look at some data and some numbers behind all of this. First of all, we're going to look at Bitcoin ordinals, and I'm here in Dune Analytics for this. And we can see the total inscriptions to date have been over 5 million. And from this, Bitcoin miners have received 996 Bitcoin, or 27 million, in fees just from ordinals and BRC20 tokens being sent through on the blockchain. Now, if you look at this in a little bit more detail, we can see in April and May, this has really, really shot up. And we can see there on the 7th of May that it really did peak. So this is the ordinal inscriptions over time. You can also see the fees paid over time, which again peaked there on the 7th of May because there was so much activity happening on the network with these tokens. Scrolling down to have a look at more details about the ordinals and the types of ordinals that have been posted to the Bitcoin blockchain. So we can see that most of them are text because these take up the smaller amount of bytes. And it's the byte size or the size of the transaction that you're putting through is how the fees are actually calculated on. We did have a lot more images, which were the ordinals, but now we have these BRC20 tokens, which are the text, and the black there is the images. If we scroll down a little bit more, we can see the type. So we can see most of them have been text type. We do have the images going through there, and you can see that in a pie chart here as well. Now, looking at this chart here, we can see the per block inscriptions, and we can see this has really been increasing in the last while over the last number of blocks. And we can see here the block number and the ordinals per block in the actual individual blocks here. Now, to put this in perspective, a Bitcoin block can hold around 3,500 to 4,500 transactions, dependent on the size of the transaction. And there's only a block every 10 minutes. So we can see that a huge amount of the transactions within the blocks for the last 2 blocks here have been ordinals. From this, as I said, the miners are doing extremely well, and I can see miners starting to rig back up again, old miners that weren't profitable, starting to rig back up again as the fees that they're now netting from this are quite high. And in fact, there's been a couple of blocks over the last few days where the fees earned in the block were actually more than the block rewards themselves. So a block at the moment is releasing 6.25 Bitcoin in rewards. And if they've also earned another 6, they've earned 12 Bitcoin in a block for mining the block containing some of these ordinals. So we can see the fees paid over time and how much this has really skyrocketed the last few days. We can also see the ordinal size over time. So we can see the ordinal size and the ordinal usage. Down here, we can see the fees paid per byte. Now, this is important because, as I said, the more bytes that are included in a transaction, the higher the fees are. But this is per byte. So we can see that people are trying to pay higher fees to prioritize their transactions going through on the blockchain. So the miners pick them and don't leave them stuck in the meme pool. And we can see a lot of these have been over 50. The purple there showing over 50 in the last few days. Now you can scroll down and you can see this as a pie chart as well. Now this is blockchain.com and this is looking at the transactions per block. And the purple line here is the transactions per block. And you can see how this has really shot up in the last while. Now the black line there is the price of Bitcoin, but it's this purple line and we can see there from the 15th of April, this is really shot up. Now, if we just go back over a 3-year period to look at a 3-year period, so we take in bull runs, we can see that the transactions per block, even in the last bull run, weren't as high as they are at the moment. And that's a really interesting thing to be looking at. We can also see here in this chart, this is the meme pool count. So this is how many transactions are actually currently stuck in the meme pool. And we can see at the moment, we have 49,000 transactions stuck in the meme pool at the moment. All of these transactions waiting to get through. And this is what happened with Binance. The transactions from user withdrawals, first of all, were getting stuck in the meme pool because the transaction fee wasn't high enough, that the miners were prioritizing ordinals and inscriptions that had these BRC20 tokens that had these higher fees attached to them. So we can see fee per transaction here in this chart, and the current fee per transaction is way up. Look how this chart has just gone on a total moon run. So the average fee per transaction at the moment is $30.91. Now, if we look at this over a 3-year period, we can see that this kind of maxed out in April 21 at around $59.60. And we can see how we've just had this parabolic move since the end of April up until now, and this is all down to the BRC20 token. Now you can see this a little bit more. This again is the same chart, just visualized a little bit longer. This is going back to all the way back to May 2022. And again, you can see the parabolic run. So fees were coming in at one stage at $130, and now they're all the way up at $30. So miners are having an absolute field day. Now if we just shoot over to Twitter for a moment, and I have this tweet here from Trevor.btc, and he's saying that this demand it's sustaining. At the time that he wrote this, there was 455,000 transactions in the meme pool, and the number of them set as high priority, and this was the day before yesterday, as high priority were 612 per VByte. And at the time it was coming in at 23.91, but we see that's gone up now again. Now, one of the things that's really pushing all of this up is that these BRC20 tokens are taking off. But be warned, a lot of the BRC20 tokens are nothing but than meme tokens. And there are some exchanges like Gate that are now starting to list them. A lot of them started as free mints, and it's all the free minting that's going on that you have to pay the fee on the free mint, but the actual BRC20 token is free. And now that some of these are being listed on exchanges, it's really driving a lot of excitement in the market for them. And I can nearly see this all taking over from the little run that we had there on meme coins on Ethereum, and all of the liquidity actually nearly pouring into BRC20 tokens now that they're easier to get. And I know that for people that are trying to buy them, it can be a little bit complex. And there is a SEC style trading being set up by Alex Labs. Now, Alex Labs is on the Stacks blockchain, a layer 2, and layer 2s and side chains for Bitcoin, I think, are going to be the narrative for the next bull run as we see all of this unfold. But these are now building a SEC style trading experience for BRC20 tokens, and this is going to be available next week, and people are going to be able to list their tokens there and buy and sell them on Alex. So do go ahead and get yourself the likes of a Hiro wallet that allows for use on Stacks and also use on Bitcoin with Bitcoin ordinals if you want to take part in trading these. And until things like this go live, and until liquidity pools and that go live, there isn't really too much use cases for many of these BRC20 tokens, except for the fact that they're memes and that they'll have historical value because they were the first ones really built on top of Bitcoin. Now, like I said earlier on, if you are unsure of what BRC20 tokens are, what ordinals are, what inscriptions are, what stamps are on Bitcoin, do check out this video that's on the screen now.